Now we move on to three Grand Cru white wines, and I'm super happy to present them in a series because this is going to be completely fascinating. And the first is coming from Alsace, which has the same historical, very deeply ingrained wine culture as Loire, but it's just not all French, it's a strong Germanic element. And we have André Ostertag, the producer of this wine, and Thomas Larmoyer is with us. It's really an honor to present this new vintage of Riesling Muenchberg, one of the great wines of Alsace. This is a Grand Cru, but it is a real Grand Cru. It's not like the rubbish Grand Cru from Alsace that are made by cooperatives for the supermarket, but this is the real thing. This is an absolutely brilliant vineyard, high perched, 275 meters above sea level. And as I'm sure you know, Alsace is very complicated geologically. You've got 15 or 20 different soil types. But this is, for me, the most typical Alsace terroir, which is the sandstone, pink sandstone. Be careful, because there are many different sandstones and they don't like to be mixed up. Grey sandstone doesn't like to be called pink, and the pink doesn't like to be called white. So this is the Grès de Vosges, which is giving the wines that incredible lightness of touch. They seem to be almost ethereal, but they are big wines. They have big structure. They can age for very long. But the Grès, the sandstone is giving them this sort of lightness of aromatics, a slightly spicy touch. So for me, they are like those guys who walk on poles very high. You know, they walk on a line. This Riesling is very filigree. It's got this, you know, low alcohol, high acidity, but it manages to taste substantial. It's very aromatic and very mineral as well. Ostertag has introduced this classification of wines. I think everybody should adopt it. They divide their wines into vin de fruits, so fruit wines, vin de pierre, stone wines, and vin de temps, which is time wines. And so this belongs to the stone wine classification, and I think this is spot on because there's a lot of fruit, but a lot of minerality as well. Camille?
I'm really happy to speak about the Ostertag wines. There's like a natural producer from Alsace. I read the article that the first vines was planted in the 12th century on the Muenchberg, so that's quite really interesting. The vines was really long time here. For me, in the restaurant, I always serve this wine with classic French dish, which is foie gras. We make the foie gras terrine with Maldon salt on the top and caramelized apple and the homemade brioche. It's really going well. Of course, the wine seems to be quite lighter because of the color, but it's very rich and intense in the palate. There is a residual sugar. I don't know the percent, how many grams is on the wine, but there is a bit residual sugar, which goes very well with the caramelized apple. And the foie gras, which is very fat, and acidity and releasing going well cut through the fatness, so that's really good match, which I will like to serve in a restaurant.
Where is Thomas? How much sugar in this wine? 3 grams. It tastes sweeter than 3, which is interesting, but I often get this impression from Alsace wines because they are a little bit riper. The fruit is a bit riper, but also I think there is an interesting element in this wine that you showcase so well. It's very balanced, but in Alsace there is sometimes a little bit of deliberate oxidation in the style. You know, if we look at the other great Rieslings that we have in the world, German, Austrian, and Australian, they are most often made in a very reductive style, you know, very active reduction, SO2 from the beginning to preserve the fruit and the freshness. Not always, but I think it's the rule. Alsace is a different tradition. Often the wines are made in the large oak. Deliberately there is a bit of oxidation. Sometimes they come on the market a little later as well. And for me this is emphasizing the sweetness of the fruit and the texture. They are less tight and they seem less acidic, and so it lets the fruit express itself more freely in this sort of ripe, plump way, even though, you know, this wine is relatively low in alcohol for Alsace. So it's a very distinctive style, and this is what is great about Alsace. It always tastes of Alsace, and that's great. And Muenchberg always tastes of Muenchberg, and this is why we have those Grand Crus. They have to have a character and a personality that are unique.